Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Gaethje versus Poirier rematch. And so if you're new around here though and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you need like video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Gaethje is 24-4 with 19 KOs and 1 submission, and Poirier is 29-7 with 15 KOs and 7 submissions. This fight is in the lightweight division and is for the BMF title, so not going to say what that means, well, because you all probably already know, but this is of course for that BMF title vacated by Masvidal. It's interesting, it's cool, I quite like it. Don't really know how much of a BMF kind of fight this is. Like when it was made, BMF title was like Masvidal versus Diaz, and that was a proper like BMF fight. But this, I don't know how much it is, to be completely honest. I feel like they would just not really have many options and they were looking for a way to possibly promote this fight a bit more. I don't know, but I don't hate that this is for a BMF title. I just don't think it's as good as what the first one was, or the original BMF title was for. Gaethje's last fight was a win via majority decision versus Fiziev, and Poirier's last fight was a win via submission in round 3 versus Chandler. Poirier has a slight reach advantage of 2 inches. Also on this card is Blachowicz versus Pereira, in which I think Pereira will win via TKO in round 3. I'm quite surprised that this hasn't been made into the actual light heavyweight title fight, because of course Hill vacated it, but possibly, I suppose, maybe it's too soon for them to make it into that or not. Not entirely sure, but they haven't, and it's still a great fight though. I like Pereira. I feel like he's naturally that light heavyweight, and I think he's going to thrive at light heavyweight. And I do rate Blachowicz. I think that he is definitely a very skilled fighter, and to be fair, to draw against Ankalaev I thought was an incredible feat. I didn't think that many people could beat Ankalaev, and I just think that Pereira will just be that too much, and he'll be coming with the extra added bit of spite now coming off that loss, and I respect him to just kind of jump in straight back in. He's not been out for too long now, and I think skill wise it'll be interesting to see how his power goes when he moves up, but I feel like that's still not going to be a problem anyway. He just walks through everybody, is crazy, and yeah, I think it's proven that he can get hurt now, but it proved that he also hurts as well. So I think he'll get a round 3 TKO, and then possibly they'll make Pereira versus Ankalaev for the light heavyweight title, depending on how much longer Prochazka's out and how long Hill's out for. We'll have to wait and see, but that would be a great fight for the title. Gaethje's UFC losses have come against Oliveira in 2022, Khabib in 2020, Poirier in 2018, and Alvarez in 2017. Poirier's UFC losses have come against Oliveira in 2021, Khabib in 2019, Johnson in 2016, McGregor in 2014, Swanson in 2013, and Sung Young in 2012. So, of course, more on there for Gaethje, but I'd say the more recent ones and the more damaging ones have come to Gaethje as of recent. I mean, realistically, both of their last 2 losses for both Gaethje and Poirier are Oliveira and Khabib, and to be completely fair, that's completely understandable, but I feel like Oliveira's one for Gaethje was quite a big defeat, and was it did show kind of weaknesses in Gaethje's game, as well as Khabib kind of doing the same thing. It shows that there's weaknesses in Gaethje's ground game, and he can be submitted. Gaethje, though, as a fighter, of course, he gives his all. That's probably the reason why this is for the BMF title, because both of them have that immense amount of heart. It might not be like an aggressive, like spiteful head-to-head or anything like that, but they just have that heart and will give it all in the cage. So yeah, like I said, it gives it his all. Great chin, is powerful. He's got asserting kicks, got big hooks, good in the pocket, finds angles well, and he's consistent. He's always going to be throwing them big shots. And against Fiziev, I don't know if he won. Well, he did, but it was a close fight, and I feel like the thing that was making Gaethje win was just the consistency of just never really being backing down or anything like that, and just continuously throwing off the front foot, off the back foot, still looked good and was still landing powerful, and that power, of course, has got him 19 KOs. And I think striking wise, he is a good striker, probably one of the best like skilled strikers in the UFC. Like, I do like the way that he is constantly landing and is still being able to take shots as well as land them. He might not be overly technical, but it's still good and consistent and powerful, like I mentioned, and good at asserting kicks as well. I like how he does push opponents back with them and does start by throwing them quite early on, which is nice. His negatives, I suppose, like I said, I feel like he is more one-dimensional than what Poirier is. His weaknesses are shown on the ground, like I mentioned. He can be a bit wild. He ducks his head in, so he's quite open to uppercuts and knees. He's not overly fast. He's open to quite a lot of shots. Not best on the back foot. He's not terrible, but he's better on the front foot in my opinion. His gas tank probably isn't what it used to be. It did look like he was tiring out quite badly against Fiziev, but that was understandable to saying what he was doing. And he has to work on takedowns. I feel like he has the ability to be able to kind of put them to fruition, but just doesn't, and just is something not quite there with them. And I feel like if he maybe had done that against Fiziev, then he might have been able to assert himself more on the ground and ground and pound and that kind of. But he didn't, and it's one of the reasons why it wasn't amazingly good performance for him in his last fight. But still managed to get the win, of course, and so he's still here and he's still been around, just like Poirier has in this division. They both deserve to be at this point where they're still having big fights, and they've never really lost against anybody who's maybe below subpar fighters, and so it's good to see that they're still kind of fighting at a high level. Poirier, as a fighter, he's quite well disciplined. He's got disguising kicks, leg kicks, especially used them well, especially against McGregor. He's got a good chin as well. He, like I said, offers more on the ground. He can flip the momentum quite well. He did that against Chandler. To be completely fair, I don't think he was winning against Chandler. I don't think anybody thought he was winning against Chandler until he managed to get the submission in the last round. And to be fair, if he had not done that, then he probably would have lost. And so neither of them are coming off amazingly good performances, but they're good enough to, of course, be in this position still. He picks his shots quite nicely. He's not overly accurate, but I feel like he's maybe a little bit more of a technical striker, and that kind of discipline and maybe patience and being composed is just something that's a little bit more nicer and a little bit less wild than what Gaethje is. He's does well off his back, and he's well at getting off his back, and that was the reason why that even set up the submission against Chandler in the first place. He did well to get off his back, and that was quite an important, well, a very important thing, because it led to him winning, of course. His negatives, he can be pushed back, and I feel like Gaethje definitely could push him back, and if he's landing strong and Poirier's just allowing him to get pushed back like he was against Chandler threw some big shots, and Poirier at some points was just taking them, and he might not be able to do that against Gaethje. He's a little bit of a slower starter. He has to build momentum. He can struggle to find range at times compared to what Gaethje is, but I feel like when you're kind of in the pocket with Gaethje, range doesn't really matter too much. He can't back up onto the cage, because then I think Gaethje's just going to have fun at that point and just going to do exactly what he kind of wants to do if Poirier's just, like I said, being pushed back and just going up against the cage. And he can be controlled, links to that same kind of thing of just going up on the back of the cage and just getting hit quite a lot. And like I said, that was the reason why I think he was losing against Chandler. And so overall, it makes for a good fight. Neither of them, in my opinion, are at the prime of their careers anymore. I feel like they're both possibly a little bit past it, but like I said, they're both still fighting at a very high level, and so it's a good fight to make. And of course the rematch as well, so Gaethje's going to want to come in and assert himself and show that he is better than what he was back in 2018. Poirier is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Poirier will win via submission in round 4. I think Gaethje might find success earlier on, but I feel like the more Gaethje tires out, I feel like Poirier's got that better gas tank, and Poirier will just be able to take him down and then have his fun at that point. And I think if Gaethje does try and go for a takedown, I don't even know if I want to see that against Poirier. I know I said that he should work on it, but maybe not really put it into fruition, because like I said, Poirier is so good at being able to get off his back and onto the kind of offense on the ground. So I would probably, for Gaethje's sake, want to keep it on the ground, but I feel like Poirier will eventually get it to the ground later on when Gaethje tires a little bit, and then he'll get a submission in round 4. And then who he goes on to fight next? Possibly Fiziev is an option. The winner of McGregor versus Chandler is possibly an option. I don't even know when that fight's happening, to be completely honest. Or Makhachev. I mean, he's fighting Oliveira now. If he beats him, possibly a rematch against Oliveira, Poirier. I don't know. There's a few options there. I feel like in the UFC, there's always options when you're a fighter in the UFC. And so yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Like, if you need, like, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.